Hello and welcome to Diecast Diaries. I'm Dan. Earlier this year I did a two-part video review of the Ertl Force 1 range of diecast aircraft, and in both of those videos I kind of pretty much focused just on their standard range of approximately 1 to 87-ish scale diecast planes and helicopters with a couple of military vehicles as well, such as is shown here on this sort of catalogue page. At the end of the part 2, I did mention some other things that Ertl released as part of the Force 1 range, including some smaller sized die-cast aircraft that were sold in packs of 2, a couple of play sets such as the Airbase and the Radar Strike set that included one of the normal range planes on top of a joystick, and it had sound effects and things like that. But two things that I didn't mention were couple of larger scale aircraft that Ertl released, technically 1 to 40 scale according to the what I've managed to find out on the internet. Neither of them are particularly common. It may well have been similar to some of the other Force 1 range. They might only have been available in the US. I certainly don't ever remember seeing them for sale over here, and with it, as I mentioned in my earlier videos, with me being quite a fan of the Force 1 range, I think anything with their logo on it would have been would have got my interest. So yeah, as I say, it may well be that both of these were only sold in the US. So the first of them was an F-15 Eagle. They were still die-cast. As I say, they're not particularly common. And the Eagle, I know these are obviously all of the Force 1 range are meant as toys, but I do think the Eagle comes across as particularly toy-like in its appearance. So that, coupled with the fact that it's quite rare, it's not one I've been kind of desperate to kind of acquire. But the other aircraft they did was this. I'll just plonk it there. It's obviously a bit of a difficult video to do this time and trying to sort of fit it all into shot. So also in 1988, they released this A-10 Thunderbolt 2. So again, this is 1 to 40 scale. It has exactly the same sorts of features as the F-15. But the big difference with this one, and why I was quite keen to sort of get hold of one, is first of all, the A-10 is one of my favourite aircraft. I also think this one looks better. I think just overall, again, of course, it's a toy, but I think overall, I think the actual plane looks better. It's a better model, if you like. And I was able to actually acquire one earlier this year off Vinted. It was kind of a bit of a surprise when one cropped up. Listed originally for £25, and eventually it got reduced to 20. Kept it in my watched items for quite a while because I was the only person watching it, and I was kind of biding my time. And then I think it was last month I kind of noticed that somebody else was suddenly watching it, had a bit of a panic thinking it was going to suddenly get bought, so decided to take the plunge and buy it myself. So I got it for £20, so really, really pleased about that. It is mint boxed, and it looks like it's never been removed and sort of assembled or anything like that. All the accessories are still in the bag. It's still kind of attached to the packaging. The only thing that's wrong is the plastic carry handle on the box has snapped, but the actual handle is still in the box, so it is all together. So yeah, really pleased to kind of get hold of this one. So what I thought we'd do, have a look at the box, kind of show you what that's got on it, and it also obviously details the features of the actual plane. Then we'll get the actual model out, have a look at it, and then what I'll do is I'll probably pause the video, get the plane assembled, because as you can see, there's obviously various accessories that come with it, and then we'll have a look at the plane in its kind of fully assembled state. So quite attractively boxed. It is a photograph of the actual model that you get on the box. Big letters. Obviously, you've got A-10 Thunderbolt 2. Details. It's got operational payload release, landing gear, and canopy. And then, with it being Ertl, tough die-cast metal construction. And then just down here, you've got some other sort of features: detailed exterior and cockpit, baked enamel camouflage paint scheme, removable armament, and opening canopy, and then a nice big Ertl logo there. On the side, just kind of details, same things again. So you get a picture of what the weapons, the missiles and that come with it look like, showing it having the bomb release button. Again, tough die-cast metal construction, and obviously just details of what the plane is. On the underneath here, you've got the Ertl address, and you can see it's got a 1987 copyright on it. It was a 1988 release. I'm not sure how long these models were produced for. It's a model I've not been able to find a huge amount of detail about, neither this nor the F-15. Details about the Ertl Collectors Club. And then, as with all of the Force 1 range, a cut-out kind of data file giving sort of details, specifications for the A-10. The other end of the box, it is different. Just kind of mentions it shows you've got an opening canopy and another just picture of the plane. And then on the actual back, you can see across the top, it just shows some close-ups of the features that it's got. So you've got retractable landing gear, opening canopy, permanently attached pilot figure, so added realism, bomb release button, and then removable bombs and rockets. Then obviously again it just highlights the kind of main features of it: the opening canopy, retractable landing gear, the bomb release button, and the tough die-cast metal construction. So you can get a pretty good idea of what the plane looks like, what the actual model looks like. And I think it was that kind of made me think, actually, that one looks sort of pretty decent. And also the fact that, you know, with a lot of planes of this sort of size done by other manufacturers, a lot of them are always going to be plastic. The fact that it was quite clearly still die-cast like the rest of the Force One range, I thought, well, actually, it looks like it's, you know, a pretty decent thing to get. So what I'll do, I'll get this one out. We can have a look at it, and also it might be a bit easy once I get it out of the box. And so we'll just open it side here. So you've got a bag of accessories. You can see the ones on the box are actually shown in black. I don't know if all the ones that were actually sold normally were grey like this, or whether they did actually ever sell it with black. Obviously the ones I've got are kind of in this nice sort of light grey colour. Looks better really. Obviously the real missiles would kind of be this sort of colour or white, so it kind of looks more authentic. And you've got things like the canopies in there as well, and the pilot figure. Similar to the normal aircraft, you also get a nice sheet of stickers. Now what I'm going to do, although I'm going to kind of assemble this, get it out properly out of its packaging, put all the bombs and missiles on it, I'm probably going to leave the stickers for now. I'm kind of undecided about what I'm going to do with those. I think it's clearly sort of very similar markings to the normal range A-10 with these kind of big sort of falconers, very similar to the actual Force One logo. And never that keen on these. I think they kind of ruin the look of it. I think the A-10 looks better in kind of just the overall sort of green and brown sort of camouflage without these sort of big sort of falcon head things on the side. So I will obviously at some point put the stickers on. You even get some stickers here for the inside of the cockpit, for the instrument panel, which is pretty good. You've got the US Air Force to go on the wing, the serial numbers to go on the tail fins, you've got the Beware of Blast to go on the engines, the rescue arrow to go underneath the cockpit, stars and bars, one for the upper left wing and then for the fuselage side, and then the sort of what looks like the Tactical Air Command logo again to go on the tip of the vertical stabilizers, I think. So the nice, decent quality stickers and look in good condition as well. But yeah, for the purpose of this video, I will leave those off. Let's get the rest of the actual plane out. So it's pretty well packaged. It's a nice, sturdy box. I'll just remove the box out of the way. So have a bit more space, put that down there. So there's the actual plane. So you can see it is a pretty decent size. Now, as I mentioned at the start, according to the Ertl, there's a Force One website I've managed to find that's got details. It is an American website, so it does cover things that weren't available over here. It does feature these jets, although it doesn't have a huge amount of info on them, but it does state, there is a photograph on that website of a page from an Ertl catalogue showing this and the F-15, and it does state that they're 1:40 scale, and I would say it kind of looks about that. I've got a model kit of an A-10 that's 1:48 scale, and that is slightly smaller than that, so I think 1:40 would be about right for this. So you can see it's very securely kind of packaged. It's kind of screwed into the base there. But quick sort of look at it. All of the fuselage, the wings, the engine pods, all of that's metal. The horizontal and vertical stabilizers here, the sort of tail fins, that's plastic. And I would say the green, you can tell, this is a thing that I've mentioned before in my videos, that when they try and sort of match the plastic to the metal, it doesn't always work, but it's not too bad. It's a nice sort of dark green colour. You've got plastic inserts to the engines there, and the bomb release buttons on here are obviously plastic as well. And then on the underneath, I'll just fold down the undercarriage. Obviously the undercarriage legs are plastic, but they're pretty sturdy. It's pretty good quality plastic. It doesn't appear too brittle. Obviously, it needs to support the weight of this with it being all metal. So I'll just fold that back up again. So that's the A-10, as I say, and its bag of accessories. So what I'll do now is if we can have a proper look at the plane, I'm going to pause the video, I'll get it unscrewed off its base, get it assembled with the cockpit canopy on, the pilot and the bombs and missiles, etc. And then we can have like a better look at it. So I'll be back very shortly. Right, so there we go. So a few minutes of sort of very careful assembly, and that's the actual, apart from the stickers as I mentioned, that's the fully assembled A-10. And some really nice features on this. In fact, there's one that it wasn't actually mentioned on the box at all. You actually get a thumb wheel under the nose for rotating the 30mm Gatling gun. Obviously what the A-10 is kind of most famous for. Kind of strange it doesn't mention that, given its kind of feature. It mentions all the other sort of features that it does. So that's really nice. One thing that's quite obvious, actually, having had this out of the box, I realised that the underneath here, this bit is plastic as well, you can see underneath, but it goes together. It's pretty nice, I have to say, and it doesn't really detract from the model. There's still kind of a decent bit of weight to this. I would say it's still, you know, a good proportion of metal on this. So that's the cockpit there. It does open and close, but it's a little bit awkward. I don't know if you can see the pilot in there. I would say the pilot, especially given the size that Ertl had to work with, is one of the weak points on this. It kind of looks a little bit more like some kind of astronaut with a massive helmet going all around. Doesn't seem to have an oxygen mask or anything like that. It's quite a bulky sort of figure. It's kind of just like half a figure, and the instructions kind of explicitly state that once he's in the cockpit, he's not to be removed. You could remove him, really. He would kind of come out again, but I will leave him in there. The cockpit itself is pretty nicely done. You've got this sort of nice sort of smoked plastic, and it's nice shape. They've not kind of like bulged it too much to fit the pilot in, so it still looks like the profile of the plane is still really good. And then you've got the undercarriage underneath. Now, I was a bit worried when I saw the picture on the back of the box of this one, the wheels down, because the front undercarriage leg was positioned like that, and I kind of thought, I wonder if that's, you know, does it only extend that far? But no, it does properly extend as it should. The wheels do rotate as well. Obviously, these are all plastic, but again, you know, pretty tough. So all the wheels retract. So you've got the nose wheel just goes up like that. It's a nice solid clunk, and the main wheels into the sponsons on the fuselage. And as with the real one and the sort of the toy one they do, the wheels do protrude ever so slightly, which is obviously true to the real aircraft. And then you've got the actual payload underneath. Now, as well as the pilot, I would say that the ordnance that you get with this is possibly the other kind of weak point. Neither of the different types that you get look anything like any real missile I've seen. These look a little bit like Sparrow air-to-air missiles, but which isn't a weapon the A-10 would have carried. These don't look like anything I've ever seen before. It looks like just massive, huge bombs. It's kind of a shame, really, because the smaller one in the main range was fitted with some pretty realistic weapons. Some of them were definitely Maverick air-to-ground missiles, which is one of the main weapons that the A-10 carries. The other ones kind of look more like sort of generic bombs, but they look pretty good. Whereas these all look kind of pretty odd, really. But having said that, you know, they are, I suppose, meant for a purpose, which is being dropped. I'll just straighten that one up. And it's a little bit stiff. It's a little bit more tricky. It might just be because it's not been done before, but you have to, so it's these buttons on the top of the wing. You kind of have to press them down. And I did find you have to press them down quite hard. Try the one. There we go. And it does drop the bomb. I'll just try the one on the other wing. You can see, there we go. So it does seem to say that the outer stations will drop as well, but I might have to have a bit more of a fiddle with it to work that out. But yeah, nice that it does have like quite a cool working feature. Reminds me a little bit of the Dinky Toys Stuka dive bomber that had a cap-firing metal bomb that you could drop from underneath it. That's something I do have one of those in my collection. I'll feature that at some point. But yeah, I'll just pop the undercarriage back down now so we can have kind of another look at the plane. And overall, I do think, I'll just move these bombs out of the way. Overall, I do think that is pretty nice. And you can see proportions of the plane look really good. I think it just looks nice as a standalone. I don't think, even though it's got these sort of black buttons on the inner sort of wings there for dropping the bombs, I don't even think that detracts from it too much. Nothing apart from the size of these sort of great big missiles or bombs or whatever. Nothing really has kind of been enlarged, as is often the case with this kind of thing, to kind of make them easier to play with or whatever, or easier to make. Even the undercarriage is kind of looks nicely in proportion to the rest of the plane. It's not oversized or anything like that to make it easy to get out. And it's not even, it's not like they've done the same wheel for all three. They've done a slightly smaller one for the nose wheel, as it should be. So yeah, some nice attention to detail. Even the slightly offset nose wheel to accommodate the gun, because the gun actually extends back through the plane quite some way. And if you look at an A-10, the nose wheel is slightly offset, it's not on the centre line. So that's been done kind of nicely as well. So yeah, so that's the Ertl Force 1 large scale, as I say, 1:40 scale apparently, A-10 Thunderbolt 2. Now, as I mentioned, I've not been able to find a huge amount out about this. I don't know how long this and the F-15 that they also did were available for. I get the feeling it wasn't long. They only ever did these two as larger scale aircraft. The only other different thing they did was there was a later release of the large scale F-15 that I believe was all plastic. It looked like the same mold, so I'm pretty sure it is the same size aircraft, but that one was actually had some electronic features as well. It looks even more toy-like than the metal version. There is actually one that found on eBay currently at the moment, mint box for 150 quid. So yeah, I'm not going to be desperate to get that one anytime soon. I have found a short video on YouTube that shows one with its working features, showing the sound effects, and to be honest, I'm not that impressed. They kind of sound pretty basic. I've got to be honest, I don't think I'm kind of missing out too much. So yeah, the A-10, they only did this one version of it. Whether they were planning on expanding the range, it kind of seems strange that they just picked the F-15 and the A-10 and stopped at that. The F-16 is a bit more of a compact size plane, but would have been an obvious choice for this. But yeah, whether it was poor sales or anything like that, obviously these, you're not going to be able to have as many of these. They're going to be more expensive for a start, they're harder to store, not as easy to play with maybe as you can have a whole squadron of the smaller size ones. These ones obviously a little bit more difficult, but at least they do have some kind of, nice play value with the drop-in bombs and the working undercarriage and opening the canopies and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, really pleased to add this one in, as I say, especially with the A-10 being one of my favourite planes, and particularly in this kind of colour scheme. So I think Ertl have done a pretty good job on this one. So as I say, the two F-15s, both the metal one and the electronic one, that, as I say, I do believe is plastic. I suppose if I did find one at a reasonable price, maybe just I would add it, but I'm not sort of particularly desperate for it. I'm much happier with my A-10. So just thought that would be quite an interesting one to show. As I say, kind of adds on to the earlier videos I did on the normal Force 1 range. And as I say, I just completely neglected to mention that they'd also done these planes, but they weren't not very common at all, and I'm pretty sure may well have only been available in the US. As I say, some of the other ranges, some of the other Force 1 range was as well. So I will leave it there for tonight. After today, I'm actually going to be on holiday, so it'll be probably a couple of weeks before I do my video again. But in the meantime, please do like, share, subscribe and comment, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.